every kind of effect which is produced by the powers of electromagnetic oscillations, respectively, as a result of the block of mentality's mental fluidal powers, respectively, as a result of the thoughts and feelings and the psyche and the consciousness, and is able to change material things, is called movement, respectively, kinetics, in the spiritual teachings of Nicodemus and Enoch. And such alterations are related to the shifting, turning, tossing about, lifting up, floating, flying, tossing up or down, and so forth, of material objects, and so forth, as well as to the generation of manifestations in respect to sounds to do with stored fluidal powers. The principle of movement, respectively, kinetics, is also understood in the spiritual teachings in this respect, when, as a result of mental powers, any kind of material experiences a change in its structure, is pierced, bent, shattered, ignited or is changed in some other way. Additionally, movement, respectively, kinetics, is also understood in the spiritual teachings as applying to the human attacking his own body by means of his own mental powers, and changing it thereby, in such a way that he inflicts damage and injuries upon himself, or, as a result of self-burning, is transformed into ashes, and so forth. Therefore, in the understanding of the spiritual teachings, all of that functions according to the concept, change as a result of movement, respectively, kinetics. Bioelectromagnetic fluidal oscillations, bioelectromagnetic fluidal energy, bioelectromagnetic power, this deals, on one hand, with the block of mentality's oscillations, respectively, with the oscillations, energies and powers of the consciousness, thoughts and feelings, as well as of the psyche. On the other hand, however, also with the oscillations of the body and as well as of all the organs, as well as of the character and the personality. In general, however, in regard to the aforementioned terms, one speaks only of electromagnetic oscillations, as well as of fluidal energies or fluidal powers, for which reason, also in this book, the main primary terms must always be understood, when the talk is of mental oscillations, fluidal energies and fluidal powers. Psyche is the factor in which the state of a negative and/or positive mood, respectively, the atmosphere of the inner attitude, produces, from the state, that is to say, from the form of the thoughts and feelings, self-confidence, from which, in a positive sense, exaltation, encouragement, joy, hope and being emotionally well positioned and so forth are supported, whereas, in a negative sense, despondency, joylessness, dejection and hopelessness, and so forth, arise. Psyche is the name for the half-material block and factor, which, in the material body of a form of life, in this case, the human, organizes and administers, within itself, in a negative or positive sequence, the thoughts and feelings of the material consciousness, from which results a negative or positive imbalance or neutral positive equilibrium, whereby the human is then simply negatively or positively out of balance or neutrally positively balanced. A positive or negative imbalance means, for the psyche, that it is degenerated in one form or another, while neutrally positively balanced means that, in the psyche, an equilibrium exists, which consists of the same values of negative and positive, each to the same degree, whereby neither a negative or positive degeneration therefore arises, rather simply a symmetry and, consequently, a balanced harmony. In no way does the psyche have anything to do with the soul, in the sense that the old and new philosophers, such as Plato, Aristotle, and Democritus, and so forth, as well as the Stoics and Epicureans and Greek mythology, and so forth, describe it, according to their principle. The psyche also has nothing to do with so-called soul traveling. The immortal spirit also does not reside therein, nor does it embody the human's reason or his actual self. All that is every bit as incorrect as Plato's representation, being that the psyche is the automotive power in the world and in the human, whose actual self consists of reason in the head logistic s, courage them s, in the chest, and desire aptome, in the lower abdomen, of which reason is that which is divine in the human and, as such, is immortal. Aristotle asserted that the psyche is the first entelechy, respectively, the form which manifests materially, respectively, the power residing in the physical organism which affects its development and completion. Always according to Aristotle, this is supposed to produce the organism's form, and, with plants, the ability to take up nourishment and to propagate. With this, the animals are supposed to be able to possess sensory perception as well as the ability to desire and to move from one place to another. The human is supposed to merge these abilities in himself, for which reason he receives the immortal spirit, put into him from outside. According to the Stoics, the psyche was body, and indeed a subtly detailed, fiery pneuma, respectively, an air-like, fiery principle of nature and of life. Democritus and the Epicureans also taught that the psyche is corporeal, and, indeed, is best compared with a warm pneuma, consisting of the smoothest and roundest atoms, from which a part thereof is distributed, completely and reasonably, over the entire body, while the part of the soul endowed with reason was assigned to its seat in the chest. The assertion of Greek philosophy is also incorrect when it asserts that the psyche life, soul, is the principle of life, its bearer is the body, and the principle itself is the bearer of the spirit in the human. Greek mythology also comes up with the absurd assertion that the psyche is the shadowy image of the human, represented as winged, or as a bird, butterfly or some other kind of winged female entity. And what there is yet to say, the aforementioned designations do not stem from purely terrestrial assessments of values of terms, because only some were created by Earth humans who occupied themselves with parapsychology. Diverse other terms and designations stem from Nicodemians and Henoch's spiritual teaching and were reshaped in an understandable way for the Earth humans by Billy Edward A. Meyer with the help of the Pliar and Patha. Specifically, these terms concern psychoteleportation, psychoteleplasty, telekinesis as well as psychotelekinesis, pyrokinesis, psychopyrokinesis, psychotelekinesis, psychoprojection, psychotelepyrokinesis and psychotekinesis. Bioelectromagnetic frequencies equals mental fluidal powers. The block of mentality's mental fluidal powers are based on bioelectromagnetic oscillations and energies which display certain powers and certain frequencies depending on the personality. They are therefore called mental fluidal powers, respectively, bioelectromagnetic oscillations, because they are, as opposed to actual measurable, material, electromagnetic oscillations, of a fine matter form and therefore cannot be measured in the manner in which normal electromagnetic waves are measured. But just as normal electromagnetic oscillations can be stored in certain materials, such as, for instance, metal, whereby magnets result, that is also characteristic of mental fluidal powers, respectively, of the block of mentality's bioelectromagnetic oscillations. In contrast, the storage of mental fluidal power does not function magnetically, rather purely by means of oscillations, whereby they can be perceived by sensitive humans or can be used for mental evolution, or for manifestations, as a result of the powers of the person in whom they originate, respectively, the new personality.